taking a quick minute to sit down, lean on my chicken coop, listen to the birds singing and the hens scratching while I re-strategize. Originally, my plan was for the chicks that I got mail order in early March to mature a bit and be at around the 15-16 week mark when the pullets were originally supposed to be delivered, the ones that were delivered today. And incorporate them together, let them mature off into laying hens for 3 or 4 weeks before putting them in with the flock of existing hens that I have. And that's now not gonna work. So I have a shed that I found online, super cheap, needs some work, that is much larger than the coop I'm currently using. I think it just became a priority to get that into shape, up and running, sooner rather than later. Chicken manure is very high in nitrogen. Ideally, you'd want the floor of your chicken coop to be cement or dirt or anything other than really thin plywood. Knowing that I have a wood floor to work with in this building, I figured it would be best if I included in my budget and in my plan pressure-treated plywood. In order to have a flat surface to put the layer of pressure-treated plywood I have, I need to do some rehab on what's already here. You can see just behind me there's a little bit of a lip. That lip is created because in transport over time with this building, the base became compromised, which then threw the floor off, and I've had to replace pieces and sections of that. After we stabilized the base, we were able to reuse some of the original flooring that we took up from the first level. So I'm really happy with how the floor has come out. It's solid, it's more stable, should be much easier to clean. I don't have walls in my original chicken coop, and cleaning the manure between the beams of the frame like this is really annoying. I'm hoping that by using thin plywood to create walls, it'll be easier to clean and it'll look better and more polished when I do farm tours. This end of the building is a little bit of a problem area. You can see there are 2 layers of T111 and they're not very flush. I feel like if I go between each of the beams with a 2x4 and then screw in from the outside, it'll bring the layers together a little bit better. Go over it with caulk before I paint and hopefully prevent any further leaking. Now, I have to remove this shelf, and I feel like in doing that, it gives me the opportunity to put a window in this end, which would give me really good light during the winter months. Chickens respond really well to sunlight, and I think aesthetically from the outside it'll make the building look better. It's in good shape. It fits the general aesthetic of the project. It's already in the frame. And it's free. I'm going to quickly tack these in place so I can, from the outside in, then screw them more securely. All right, I don't know if you can tell, but for the most part, it brought in the seam. So I'll go back over it with caulk and get in there really good before I then put a final coat of paint or two on it. probably should not have put that in before I did the support beam going up the outside of the window frame. Fail. I think my best option is to cut a notch in the new beam to go around this, because not only is it screwed in from the outside, it's also screwed in from through the beam. Most of the walls have thin plywood at this point. Pretty pleased with how it came out. Some of the angles were a little tricky because the building isn't perfectly level or square. I can go back later and cover the imperfections with trim before I paint. I am completely obsessed with this set of nesting boxes. Not only because of the unique entrances to each nest, but I think that it's fate because it can fit in this door almost perfectly. This was a large garden shed when I bought it. The doors on the side of the building were used for everyday access. The big doors on the end were used for lawnmowers and bigger equipment to come in and out of. These doors are in great condition. Those doors did not survive the journey. It'll be really easy to, with 2x4s, frame it out, put T111 against the back, and finish it off. It'll be really great in the long run to be able to have my nesting boxes on a small frame against a door, which will allow me to not have to go through the chicken coop every day to collect the eggs. Quick update, as you can see, we have the frame that we created outside in place. It was important to do that outside so that we could screw from the outsides in and then take the completed piece and screw from the insides out onto the building. We put up some quick placeholders in the corner just to add some support while we hoisted up from the other end. We have plywood to go across the top. It was really important for the ceiling to basically not come crashing down on me or my chickens, but also be secure enough for me to hang feeders off of in the long run. I've gone ahead and swept, used my air compressor after that to try and get as much of the dust and dirt and debris out of here as possible because it's finally time to paint. So I'm in old clothes and gonna put some music on and get to it. I've been working on the coop again today, getting ready to paint the inside of it and open the doors on the end towards the field, with no cows in sight except a very small little white dot on the horizon, and look what I found. Back again, have a quick update for you. You may notice that the scenery in the background has changed significantly from some of the earlier work on the shed to chicken coop conversion project. Not just my COVID quarantine curls, but the gardens behind me and the foliage in the trees. It is early June and full-on garden season for my CSA business here on the farm. Have 66 customers, up from about 50 last year and the year before, and it has kind of pulled us away from the shed to coop conversion. But we have made some progress. You can see it's still full on awful, ugly construction site, but we're making progress, so that's the good thing. We've been able to frame out the back to create somewhat of a colonial historic salt box shape that is a little more fitting and in tune with my farm in New England. We've gone off the bat to create a covered run for them to keep them safe, and then there's a ton of space around for pasture for them. It's still a little rough because we are continuing to frame it out as we go in some areas, but we use 16-foot pieces of 2x4 going up 4 feet into the existing rafters of the shed to create some stability in the salt box form. By the way, this is Tim. He's awesome. He's been here for, I don't know, 8 or 20 years or something. We've gone ahead and laid out what will be their covered run. It's important to keep chickens covered from flying predators. It's also important when you're setting their run to go down into the earth 6 inches to a foot, depending on what the predator situation and your landscape is. I was able to get down about a foot in this area for them. We have to finish up the roof and then move them in. All right, quick update. Everything is painted, all set, put in place. I am looking like a hot mess. That's perfectly fine because it's the middle of June and I'm in a chicken coop. So everything's painted, getting ready to move them. I built this quick little hinged roosting nest for them. I put it on hinges so that whenever I have to clean them, I can simply just lift it up out of my way, make it somewhat easier for myself. Not really psyched at this point to have the cinder blocks, if you can see, where I'm going to put a mix of 2 or 3 of each grating water. I'd like to hang them from the ceiling at some point in time, but I just want to get them in here and frankly move the chicks that are now pullets into the smaller chicken coop that the main flock is currently calling home. So at this point, the shed to chicken coop conversion project is, for all intents and purposes, finished. I have some little touches I have to clean up, but I'm not going to get to it before fall at this point because we're in the middle of my CSA growing season. Going into this, I sort of looked over what my options were, and I could have had a real carpenter come in and build this from scratch. A real carpenter, I am not. But it would have cost me, frankly, triple what I've invested at this point in this project. I could have had a prefabricated shed delivered, a large prefabricated shed delivered, which I used a smaller prefabricated shed for my original chicken coop, and it's done pretty well in the 10 years I've had it. I've just outgrown it. But frankly, to buy a large prefabricated shed would be double and a half what I've invested in this project. So for a minimal investment, I've been able to provide my hens with a larger coop, a better outdoor covered, protected run, and hopefully in the long run that will help egg production and keep my CSA customers happy, keep my weekend egg buying neighbors happy, and kind of help me keep going.